Those were some nice songs. Today we are going to, our sermon is from Second Samuel, chapter 6, verse 1 through 13. Second Samuel, chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. Today we're going to deal with familiarity with God. Familiarity with God. How familiar we can get with God. And before I even start the reading of the word, I want to just give you something to look at while you're reading the word, while I'm reading the word, and what the Webster Dictionary called explanation of familiarity. And it says it's a close knowledge or acquaintance, well known, an unjustifiable presumption of intimacy in speech or behavior, an unwelcome gesture of behavior. And so when we read it, it's something to look back on. I'm going to come back to this too. Again, David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people that were with him from Bealid of Judah to bring up from thence the ark of God, whose name is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, that dwelleth between the cherubims. And they set the ark of God upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, that was in Gibeah. And Uzzah and Ahio, the son of Abinadab, drave the new cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of God. And Ahio went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps and on psalteries, and on timbrels and on cornets and on cymbals. And when they came to Nacon, threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died at the ark of God. And David was displeased, because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah. And he called the name of the place Perizah Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and said, How shall the ark of the Lord come to me? So David would not remove the ark of the Lord unto him into the city of David, but David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of the Lord continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David, saying, The Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and all that pertaineth unto him, because of the ark of God. So David went out and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. And it was so that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 spaces, he sacrificed ox and fatlings. Thanks be to God for the reading of his holy word. What a message. Of course, I was praying for my husband, and I was praying for something special for him. And when he sent me this message and I looked at it, I'm like, I don't need to pray anymore, because he got the message. And it's amazing because he titled it the familiarity with God. And the scripture here is saying how David had just won a war, and he was happy, and he was content, and he went with his people to take the ark. The ark represents God. It was nothing to play with. The ark represents God. But David and his men went and they got the ark. They did not go before God. They did not pray and ask God how to bring the ark to the city of David. They were just happy. Happy after their big wins. Happy after with that familiar spirit of, I know God and this is God. I can familiarize myself with him and I can bring it to the city with me. There was no respect. There was no reverence. It was all about being happy in the Lord. It was all about having what they want. And this is what we're talking about. How we sometimes forget who God is. We sometimes forget that we need to revere him and reverence him. And we get very familiar. And we get very familiar with him. And what is important about this is that it looked like, I remember years ago when I read this scripture, I'm like, God, he killed Uzzah. You know, it looks like it's just so heartless, you know. But God is not heartless. God is a God of love. So why did he kill Uzzah? Because Uzzah was not asked to help God. He was trying to help God. He was trying, and it's something that all of us would do. He was trying to help so that the ark didn't fall off. But if he was in the right place, he would know, touch not, because that's God. And he said, nobody look in my face or nobody touch me and live. So he touched God. The ark represented at that time God. Still does. So what happened here is that they were all in a place of familiarity where they feel, yeah, it's all God, and yeah, we can do what we want to do and we can have what we want. And David, being the leader, he was having a good time. He was dancing and he was having a good time. And when this happened, he was angry. He was angry at God. He was angry. Why did you do that? Isn't that like all of us? When we don't ask ourselves, what did I do wrong? Why instead we ask? This morning when I was reading Billy Graham's devotion, and I noticed most of you read it alongside with me, did you realize the man from jail said, why should I seek God? I don't know if he's going to take me out of prison. Now that's a very familiar spirit. A very familiar spirit. Who puts him in jail? Why did he go to jail? And why does he think that God needs to take him out of jail for the wrong that he has done? Who he thinks that he is, so that he is like, he's like, I don't need God, because if I need God, I only need him to take me out of prison. That is a familiar spirit. That is equalizing himself with God. That is saying, well, God is just there to give me what I want. What ministers to me in this is that unjustifiable presumption of intimacy in speech or behavior. And it is a very prevalent practice in this society, especially in the developed country, because nobody knows what authority is. Nobody has the slightest inclination of what authority is with God or with man. When God puts leaders up there, whether it's teachers, parents, pastors, or boss at work, it's his authority. He's placing it there for us to respect it and not to be familiar with it. And if you notice, as soon as we're in the job and somebody speaks highly of us or start to love us or to speak on the same level with us, we tend to not respect that authority. Or if that authority is not doing what we want, or is not as intellectual as we think, or brilliant as we think, or good looking as we want, then we started to not respect that authority. We start to familiarize ourselves with that authority. We start to talk with that authority as if we're on the same level, not realizing that there is a line. Authority is set up by God. And what he's saying in this scripture, that his authority was being invaded, that he was not respected, and he will take us to the place where he will show us that he is God and must be loved, reverent, and respected. And what we do, and most of the times this is the biggest problem that we have, is that we tend to feel so good, feel so intimate,